those of you who do not know me, my name is Kelly Calawa. I'm a senior at Londonderry High School, and I have been given the opportunity to lead a series for the Relevant Bible Study, which is for girls grades 6 through 12. And so I had been, for a couple weeks, been leading a series studying Romans 8. And so because coronavirus kind of forced us to not be able to meet in person, I decided to email out a Devo of the last part of Romans 8 that we would have been studying had we been actually physically together. And so thanks to Katie Rao, PK, Pastor Ken, all the students call him PK. PK had read the Devo and he asked me to read it for you guys. And so that's what this is. So this Devo covers Romans 8 verses 31 through 38. And so I wrote, there are so many things that I love about this last passage. One of my Bibles titles these verses, The Believer's Triumph, and the other, More Than Conquerors. I love how these titles speak to these verses. The passage begins with verse 31, where Paul says, if God is for us, who can be against us? While simple, the statement is profound. If we believe and chase after God, He does the same for us. God is on our side. He fights on our behalf. As believers, we are triumphant in every battle. We are conquerors. God has already gone before us and won the battle over our greatest enemy, sin. So now we are afforded the victory in Christ in every battle we encounter. I know that for me, there have been a lot more battles recently, with school transitioning to remote learning, restaurants closing down and only providing takeout or delivery services, events and trips getting canceled, and pretty much the entire US being forced into quarantine. It feels like there's a lot pitted against us. I am an extrovert wholeheartedly, so not being able to see my friends and get out of the house has been tough. Quarantine in general produces a lot of anxiety and fear. It's scary to not be allowed to see people or be in groups because of this virus. Maybe some of you are having trouble spending so much time with your family, or you're getting really bored with all this extra time. We have all found ourselves in an unprecedented situation, one that we never thought we would be in, and are now faced with new challenges and difficulties that we have to overcome. It can all be overwhelming and scary. What is so encouraging about this text is that Paul says that God reigns over everything. Like Paul says in verse 34, Jesus Christ came and died on our behalf and rose again. Jesus won the battle over death and is now seated at the right hand of God, working on our side for us. God sees us in this crazy time and recognizes our fears, anxiety, and boredom, and loves us and meets us in those difficulties. Paul says in verse 35, who can separate us from the love of Christ? Can affliction or anguish or persecution or famine or nakedness or danger or sword? He then answers his questions in verses 37 through 39, saying that nothing can separate us from the love of God. We are victorious in Christ, and nothing we face, not even the global pandemic that is COVID-19, can separate us from the love of God. So, if we know that in Christ we are more than conquerors, that we are victorious in every battle we undergo, and that nothing can separate us from the love of God, how then should we live? I think the answer is pretty simple. We must live confidently in Christ. He has won the battle. He is in control of the situation we face. He loves us more than we will ever know, and He is a good Father that protects us and fights on our behalf. Even when we are facing a frightening illness, God is in control. He knew this was going to happen, and He knows what will happen, and we need to rest in that knowledge. Know that as followers of Christ, we are called to live with an attitude of victory and confidence, so we cannot let the coronavirus stop us from living that way. Continue to pursue God in this time, and be intentional about your time. Our Relevant Bible Study group had talked a lot about denying our flesh and choosing God, as well as looking for ways God is working in our lives and choosing to serve God through our abilities and passions. We need to continue to do all those things even in quarantine. Reach out to friends and catch up, take time to rest, spend time with God and your family. Use this time to become a better follower of Christ. These last few verses of Romans 8 tell us that no matter what we face, God is right there with us. There is no virus that can separate us from God. He is victorious, and we are victorious through Him. So my challenge to Relevant that week was each day to look at how God is working through your life when you're stuck at home. Did you get a good night's sleep? Did your mom make you lunch? Or did you make your own really yummy lunch? Did your friend call you to check in? Be intentional in looking for ways to remain positive and see God working at this time. And also write down what you see. It'll be a good way to look back and reflect on that. My other challenge was to write down what's happening and how you feel about this entire situation. My English teacher actually had encouraged my class to journal about everything that's happening, because we are living through history right now. And it would be really cool to have a physical journal entry about living through the coronavirus pandemic of 2020, to be able to say, for me to show my kids one day, and for others just to show friends or grandkids and things like that, just to show people one day about, hey, look at what I lived through, look at how crazy this was. My last encouragement to them and to you all, is to take advantage of this time and live confidently, knowing that we are triumphant through Christ. He is in control of the situation and he's got it.